back with another review here on Red, White, and Brown, brought to you by Daisy's.live. We're keeping it at the theaters with this next review because we're talking about Varisu, which it's a very interesting story of a family kind of pitted against themselves. So for those that haven't seen the movie, or for those that may have not heard of the movie follows the story of this character, Rajendran, and he's a business tycoon played by Sarath Kumar, who is terminally ill. Now, he has a very large business. He's built a very large fortune for himself. But the problem is that he has 3 sons, and he wants one of the sons to essentially, kind of be the successor of the company, not only step in and take his place, but ultimately run and own the company, as like a single majority. So what he does is he pits his 2 eldest sons against each other. Their names are Ajay and Ajay. And he's pretty much pitting them against each other to see like who will rise above the 2 to be the right successor. But the 3rd son, Vijay, disagrees with his father's methods and chooses to stay away from the family business. In fact, as Rajendran's the father, his health deteriorates, he begins to see his sons for who they truly are, and ultimately chooses Vijay as his successor because, there's a lot of moments where these 2 are kind of being pitted against themselves, where you see a lot of selfishness, you see a lot of greed. And Vijay, who decided to step away from that, really took kind of the light of his father's eyes. But this leads to conflict between the brothers, that we're working very hard to try and be the one that comes to own it. The question remains if Vijay can prove himself as a worthy, successor, and if not, essentially one of the brothers, we're going to come into the role and take over. Now, I really liked the premise of this movie because I haven't seen a movie quite like this in a while, where you have this internal conflict in the family, and you're just ultimately fighting over for who takes care of it. In fact, I think it's a really good story that's not often told, because I'm sure this happens quite a lot in the real world too, especially whenever someone dies, a lot of selfishness comes out in families of who's going to inherit what, and to what amount, right? Especially when there's many members of the family. So the director of this was Vamishi Paidpali, and I thought he did a really good job of just crafting an engaging film, because family drama is very interesting. They make family drama reality shows, right? So in a way, I felt like I was kind of getting a little bit of that, but it's also well balanced with some peppy songs, has some dramatic heroic moments. And I think Vijay too, or Vijay, which is also the actor's name, did a really good job as well. Just trying to play I would say someone who rose to the occasion, right? Someone who rose to the occasion to choose good over selfishness and greed. It does start a little shaky though, because some of the moments seem a little artificial. There's not a whole lot of enthusiasm going on. It's just a little slow to start. But as the story progresses, it does actually get a lot more engaging as the movie follows along. I would say around the 15-minute to 20-minute mark is when the gears started really rolling on this. There is actually a Telugu version called Cheka Shavanta Vanam, I believe, where instead of the gangster backdrop, it's set in the corporate world as well. So like I said, very interesting film, very interesting theme, and in the second half is where like I said, it picked up pace in the first half. The second half is where it just kind of started to really steal the show. There was just a lot of balance between sentimental moments and comedy, and the comedy lines were delivering. I found myself laughing in the scene, and I acknowledge this too, that relatives can be toxic, especially in these big family drama moments. And then lastly, I will talk about just a few little slip ups. There was a romantic track that they were trying to do, a love interest, and it didn't really in my opinion, it didn't really pan out. And like I said, just some moments that kind of made it feel a little slow. But whenever it was talking about the main plot, the main development, especially whenever Vijay is stepping into this role, really proving himself, it does make for a meaningful conclusion, because at the end you're oh, okay, you're really rooting for him the entire time. And so it does line itself up for a great conclusion. So despite those little shortcomings I said, I thought this was a great film. It's one that I would go to the theater and watch as well. I highly recommend, that you guys do that, because hey, we want to support our theaters in the time whenever they are not getting the most seats in the house.
So, how was your theater going experience? Because I find that when we're watching American films, like the audience is different, but when you go to like a Indian film, Hindi language, Tamil, whatever, it like the audience, like the interaction is kind of different. So, how was that
It's very
experience?
casual. It's much, I would
Yeah.
say it's much more casual than going to watch a Marvel movie, for instance, because they're like, what's really cool is like the people around you not only laugh, but like you can kind of like hear like their other reactions as well. Like I feel like whenever you go watch an American movie, unless it's like a straight up comedy, like the the audience is trying to kind of like be really engaged. Like it just feels a bit more formal. But like especially right now, like being in the US and watching Hindi movies, at these cinemas, there's not as many people in there. And so when there's only like, 6 or 7 other people with you in the theater, like you can kind of have like this close knit experience and just kind of experience the movie with some other people. Whereas going by myself for an American film, or let's say I go with like a couple buddies, I'm really just experiencing it with them rather than like the entire theater, because there may be 100 people in that theater. So I really enjoy going to theater to watch these indie movies, and when they're good, it makes it, I mean, it just makes the experience great. There's nothing worse than being in the theater and expressing not expressing gratitude for the right reason with the other people in the theater with you. So that's overall my thoughts on that.
Nice. So, 5-star recommendation for Varisu?
I give it a recommendation, maybe not maybe not 5 stars. I'm not saying this is a must watch, like, but this was a very good film, and I do highly recommend it. So
Great. Well, definitely another one to perhaps add to everybody's watch list.
we are back. That's right. We're still here. We're not leaving that quickly because we're back on Red, White, and Brown. Brought to you by DC's Live. And we got one more review for you. That's right. It's a 4 review list today. And we're returning back to Netflix with